Donald Trump's economy is in shambles, and I shouldn't be the one telling you that. Y'all can tell me. I mean, y'all know. I don't need to tell you this. It's obvious. The economy is in absolute shambles. Inflation is through the roof. Prices on basic needs like groceries are very, very high, way higher than they were last year. Especially higher. I think they're higher than they were during COVID in a lot of areas. And meanwhile, wages have basically not risen at all to meet this inflation. In fact, it has gotten harder and harder to get jobs. So job availability has dropped while inflation has gone up, meaning that people are in a really tough spot. And that's not a good look for Donald Trump. He's the guy who ran on the idea of fixing the economy. He's the guy who ran on a platform of attacking Biden and the Democrats and the incumbent administration for their failures with the economy, of which were, to be very fair, very few. There weren't many failures with Biden's economic policy, and yet where they existed, those failures were attacked ruthlessly and successfully. And now that same guy is failing to deliver on any of his promises and is actually delivering the exact opposite of what he promised. People are mad. There are very few Americans left unaffected by this. Hell, even the wealthiest of Americans probably aren't doing too well in all this. We're at the point now where the MAGA party is falling apart. The big right-wing civil war over Israel is, its own other can of worms. The government shutdown, the Epstein stuff, and now the economy. Things have never looked worse, not just for Trump's approval ratings, but for the future of the Republican Party, which has decided to make itself the Republican, or the Trump Party. The Republican Party is the Trump Party, and now that Trump is quickly leaving vogue, you can feel it. It's not just borne out in the data, it is, by the way, but you can also feel the Trump train is dying. And that means the MAGA train and the Republican train, the right-wing train in general, is dying. Anyway, trying not to dawdle too much on this point, before we get into it, if you end up liking this video, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe and ring the bell icon, it helps a ton, and hype the video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get right into it. I've got a video here that breaks down all the juicy details, all the big numbers on Trump's failing economy, and it's been failing for a while, but now it's impossible to ignore. So let's take a big old I told you so lap over all those people who voted for Trump and fell for it again.
The hour with the reality Donald Trump is trying to live in versus the economic reality Americans feel more and more each day, and the political reality now confronting his party. The disconnect has the GOP more worried than ever amid growing calls to shift their strategy on affordability ahead of the midterms. As American wallets get thinner, the essentials stretch budgets, and layoffs hit a post-pandemic high. But much like his predecessor, the president is digging in and trying to paint a...
Remember when Trump promised that we were going to win so much we'd get tired of winning? This is what winning looks like.
Very different picture. Writing this weekend that prices are, quote, coming substantially down. Adding, quote, Biden caused the affordability crisis. I'm fixing it along with everything else.
I thought when Trump first took office, I thought that when this happened, obviously he was going to blame Biden. And I thought maybe it would work because Americans are stupid. But it's actually just gotten so bad, I don't think anybody wants to hear excuses from Trump. If he doesn't bring the economy back, it won't matter how much he blames Biden for it being shit. He's failing, and has continued to fail for a year now. How can he be dictator? How can he have all this executive power that he supposedly needs to get America back on track? And now we're a year in, and things are worse now than ever.
But according to a new survey, economic confidence is at a 17-month low. 68% of Americans now believe the economy is getting worse. 63% say it's a bad time to get a job. Meantime, Trump's focus was elsewhere last night with the recipients of this year's Kennedy Center honors and touting his push to remodel the White House to his liking.
God.
We're bringing the White House back room by room, but you had a lot of other presidents that weren't into that. I've always been into it. I have two jobs. I have a construction.
I love how every time we're like the country and the political landscape is having this like big important conversation about the future of millions and millions of Americans, the media and the news then cut to Trump talking about remodeling the White House or his stupid fucking ballroom.
Job which is really like relaxation for me because I've been doing it all my life. But I actually get great relaxation out of fixing the White House and fixing the Kennedy Center. We're putting up large slabs of marble in a couple of the great halls, and it's already,
The
we
Great
did
Halls.
some testing. It's made it, as good as it is, it's made it even better. Marble can do that.
All right, let's break this all down with my excellent panel.
He's so
Anna
silly.
Palmer from Punchbowl News, the Dispatch's Jonah Goldberg, and Zolan Kana-Youngs from the New York Times. Good morning to you all. Happy Sunday. Jonah, the president says he has 2 jobs. A lot of Republicans will say you have
He
one
works so
job.
hard.
Focus on the economy and affordability, but Trump is just unable to acknowledge people are feeling pain right now and wants people to believe the reality is different than what they're feeling. Can he actually make that case to the American public?
Well, first of all, I think we got to get some marble in here.
Some gold.
Marble will do
columns,
that.
Please.
I think he has a long history of thinking he can jawbone reality to his liking, right? I mean, going back to his depositions where he said his net worth depended on how he felt that way. He is a product of the power of positive thinking and the prosperity gospel.
That's such an old quote, but yeah, Trump did say that. His net worth depends on how he feels that day, is a real Donald Trump quote, said without a hint of irony, because of course it was, because it's Donald Trump.
And that attitude has worked pretty well for him politically over the years. The problem is that it can't work. Americans live, we talk about the macroeconomy. Each American lives in a microeconomy, and Joe Biden got in trouble for telling people not to believe their lying eyes, not to believe the headlines. But people are actually experts in their own economic situation, and telling them that they're falling for a hoax.
What's so great about this is that Biden's economy was so good, it was so historically good, especially compared to every other country on the planet post-COVID, that we're going from such a high to such a massive low. Oh, is my mic fucked up? Is it just me or is Zan having audio issues? Is my mic bugged? Am I all like robot-y right now? I've been having the occasional issue with my mic where I just have to unplug and plug it back in. Okay. Well, yeah, if my mic goes crazy robot, let me know. That must just be them. Anyway. Well, that completely derailed me. I just got... Ah, fuck, I got one guide.
Hoax is political malpractice.
It's because, and the polls bear this out. I mean, poll after poll shows Trump's position on the economy is deteriorating pretty rapidly among the American public. This is just the Marquette poll from between July and November. The approved, disapproved number, 43% back in July. Oh, not good back in July. Even worse now, 36%. And the disapproved number in November, 64% disapprove. Zolan, you cover the White House. Does the president grasp how underwater he is on this issue?
I think he's increasingly frustrated over the rising criticism that he's getting on this issue. Grasp is something else. When you're calling something a con job, I don't know if you're really grasping it. I do feel like this is deja vu in a bit, talking about a president responding to economic frustrations of the American people by basically not empathizing with them, by saying, wait, the economy is actually very good. And by the way, the president, a large part of his campaign was attacking Biden over that problem. So now you've
If Biden was able to run, do you think he would have won? I saw some dipshits on my Reddit complaining about me being based and correct about this take the other day, but yes, or at least more of a chance than Kamala Harris had. I mean, Harris lost, so you can argue, until the cows come home about what scenario would have been better. But what I can tell you is that a lot of Democrats that didn't vote, and a lot of Democrats that party switched and voted Trump, did so because they lost faith in the Democrat organization. Something a lot of people forget is that the Democratic and Republican parties are not government organizations. They're independent organizations from the government. The whole process of nominating and electing a representative, electing their nominee, is not done through direct democracy. Not really. Not really, if you know the way it works, right? It's a very similar to the Electoral College, where technically, electors could just choose to not go to who they're supposed to. Theoretically, they could do that. But they never have, or at least as far as I know, they don't. But, basically, Biden was ousted undemocratically, which is just a thing they could do. It's an organization, it's an independent organization. They can do that. The leadership of the party decided to oust Biden from the nomination that he'd won. So as far as the people having their say, making their voices clear about his nomination, the people wanted Biden. The people elected Biden. And then he was ousted by the leadership of the organization undemocratically. A undemocratically elected figure was nominated by those leaders, and that figure, 3 months out from the election, with no time to campaign, maybe Kamala could have won if Biden dropped out like a year and a half earlier, but he didn't. So when they made him drop out 3 months before, they basically just put Kamala Harris into an unwinnable situation. Because how was she supposed to turn a whole campaign around in 90 days? Which is how much time she had. She had like 100 days. A lot of people will not bite this bullet, though. Like, the Biden hate still burns strongly.
Exposed yourself to this issue. You ran on the economy, you ran on affordability, and on helping the working class. That's a part of at least a stated populist message. And now as you see frustrations over grocery prices, and the White House in turn say, well, look at energy prices, or look at all we've done on inflation, even though people are still frustrated about inflation. That's where you get those poll numbers, right? That's where you get that. There is frustration in the White House over this. There is frustration mostly that Republicans, there have been some Republicans that are also calling on the president to focus on this issue more, but that hasn't translated to a message of actually meeting voters where the frustrations are. I do think it's interesting that we're getting to the point of a presidency where people are starting to say, where his aides are starting to say, don't worry, he's about to travel. Talk about the economy.
Right.
I feel like we hit that point all the time.
This is deja vu all over again. I mean, speaking of those Republican and concerns, and yes, he is going to Pennsylvania.
What Americans are too dumb to realize is that Biden doesn't control prices, big corporations do. So that's both true and correct. So inflation is a bit of a complicated idea, but the idea of inflation is simply that like the US dollar loses buying power over time as inflation goes up. But that's not necessarily always the case, right? Like some markets, some products, some particular commodities almost never get inflation, right? So for instance, video games are a really good example of this. Despite massive inflation and still pretty significant wage growth, the average price of video games was $60 for a AAA new release from like 2005 all the way to like 2024, I want to say. And that is despite inflation going up by roughly 100%, roughly double the like a dollar, like a dollar was worth roughly half what it was when that price value was established last year. And on top of that, wages have risen, not significantly, but notably. There has been a notable average wage rise since. So, like, video games, up until recently, had roughly stayed the same price outside of microtransactions and stuff. And I know that's, like, a very weird example. That's one example of how, like, inflation doesn't necessarily mean everything gets more expensive. But in general, things have gotten more expensive if inflation is going up. Yeah, but... yeah, like Biden can control it, or could have controlled it in some ways. He could have set price caps for certain things, which I believe he did do. I think he did set a price cap for something like food, maybe. I could be wrong about that. Obviously, working with the Federal Reserve to adjust interest rates is the best way to handle a economic crisis as the president, because it's not really a president's job. There's an entire like part of the government that is made to handle economic crisis and manage our government's finances and the economy. And the president needs to provide the Federal Reserve with the support to do that. Trump does not do that. That's the problem. Trump has no idea how to work with the Federal Reserve.
On Tuesday, one Congressman, Jeff Van Drew, told my colleague Sarah Ferris this past week about the concerns among the GOP and Trump. Van Drew said he's talked to Trump. He said, I would love him to go back to driving around in the garbage truck, going to McDonald's, go to a supermarket, go to a farm. That's when he's at his best. Next year, we got to concentrate. The American people first. Next year.
I mean, I think it's really difficult. When you talk to members of Congress,
We'll do it right next year, guys.
They are looking at the election in the midterm saying, what are we going to run on? We've seen this frustration time and again. House Republicans in particular basically having a lot of no vote confidence in Speaker Mike Johnson because they feel like they need to be doing something, not just passing, NIL legislation, actually being able to bring something home. And this last special election in Tennessee, Manu,
Put the fries in the bag, Donald. Real footage of Donald Trump after the election.
Know it as well as I do. I mean, they are nervous because they see this as being a massive problem for them.
Yeah, and
after he leaves office,
look at just the American people are feeling it in different ways, and this is from a Gallup survey about holiday gift budgets. People are spending to anticipate less money this holiday season, spending about roughly $230 less than last season. So the real people are feeling it immediately, especially this Christmas season. And Trump, when he was asked about all this,
Dude, what really tipped me off to the fact that it was getting bad, like so bad that by now, like nothing about these news headlines surprises me, was when about a month ago we got the news that something along the lines of like 20% of Americans were missing their car payments, which is like a massive percentage and a huge indicator of enormous economic crisis about to hit. And sure enough, just about a month later, we're seeing numbers come out that demonstrate the economy being in dire, dire straits.
this week, this is how he messaged the concerns over affordability and the Republican agenda.
The word affordability is a con job by the Democrats. And what's today where they have a race
That's
going
crazy.
on right now?
Read the room, bro. Holy shit.
The word affordability, it's a made-up word. It's a con job by the Democrats. They're lying to you. Everything's affordable. You can afford everything. You're just making it up. You're imagining things. Don't be hysterical.
Tennessee, and this woman goes, affordability, affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. The prices were way high. We're bringing the prices down. But they're like scam artists. You know, they're I call them con men and women.
Con men and women.
Look,
God, he's so
again,
retarded.
you can't tell people you're imagining things. Look, I will say there's a bit of a point to this thing about affordability insofar as there are lots of things where the prices are improving. The problem is, we've seen this many times in American politics. We come up with these different words and phrases to describe political or economic anxiety, right? You know, economic insecurity was one a long time ago. It's the economy, stupid, whatever. There's a lot of things happening in the economy right now that are making people feel anxious, and affordability just is a better word than most for capturing it, but it doesn't necessarily get at every aspect of it. And the problem Trump has, it's very rare for presidents to actually do something specific which gives them complete ownership of the economy. And his Liberation Day tariffs, where he said we are now transforming the economy, we're making the economy better, it's very easy for Democrats to say, even when it's not true, all of this is because of what he's doing.
And don't you think, I mean, truly though, the problem for the president.
And I don't think people realize how big a deal these tariffs are, because not only did the initial announcements of the tariffs have a massive hit to the economy, but then once they took effect and some time passed, that's when it really started to hit. Allow me to explain. When Trump announced that, I guess we'll go to the very beginning for those that haven't followed along from the very start of all this. A tariff is a state-enforced tax against imports from a given country. And the person who has to pay the tariff is the retailer in the country on the receiving end of the import. And so in the case of America, let's say Sony PlayStations from Japan are being shipped to America to be sold at Walmart's, an American retailer. Walmart has to pay a tariff on the foreign imported good because it's manufactured in a different country and then imported here for sale, right? And that would mean that, let's say there's a 100% tariff on Japan, something that Trump might go through with, God forbid, but, you know, more unlikely Japan, because we're pretty chill with Japan, but you know what I mean. China makes a lot of things, and Trump wants to do a 100% tariff on China. All of those things become 100%, as in 2 times, more expensive for the company, the retailers, to import than they were before. What do you think that means for the prices of those things once they end up on the shelves of, say, Walmart, or Target, or Walgreens, or Aldi, or wherever you shop, Safeway? What do you think that means when something is imported, or Best Buy, or wherever you shop, wherever it is? If you shop at a retailer in the United States and something was made somewhere else and shipped there to be put on the shelves, that's going to be a lot more expensive. But here's the thing about that. Trump announced it beforehand. He announced it. And this meant that all these retailers, knowing that they would have to pay way more, because the other country doesn't pay the tariff. Native retailers do. And so because they knew they were going to have to pay a ton more after Trump took office and he put these tariffs in place to just stock their shelves, they overstocked. They bought months and months and months worth of stock on all their products that they plan to shelf and sell over the course of the next year, because it would be cheaper to do it all now than to do it incrementally later. And when a bunch of companies buy and hold a bunch of, I don't know all of the logistics of this exact aspect, to be fair, but when a bunch of corporations buy and hold a bunch of inventory, it has a massive negative impact on their market holding, like on their market value, and because they're not going to return a profit on that investment for a while, and that tends to have a big impact on the market. And when the market takes a big hit, it doesn't tend to do well for the rest of the economy, right? And so the market got a big hit, and the economy got a big hit in response, mostly in large part due to how many, like, there's this big hit to economic productivity because of that. It was not good that these companies had to do this, like overstock in preparation for the tariffs. But then the tariffs took effect, and enough time had gone by that overstock has gone away. Now these companies are actually having to pay tariff pricing to stock their shelves, and now we're paying the price.
And the White House right now is they have been saying this is the Biden economy. Well, at some point, it's the Trump economy, right. And he promised it was going to be a different story.
You'll understand, it won't be the Trump economy for 4 more years.
Under him, and as much as he doesn't want to, wants to call affordability a scam, it is the word of this election cycle, and he can't run away from it.
Yeah, and one thing, while the economy, of course, is going to be the driving issue come in the midterms, there's another way Trump is trying to hang on to power, at least have Republicans do in the House, and it's this gerrymandering wars. We're seeing district by district, state by state. In Indiana, it is getting really, really ugly. The state Senate, controlled a supermajority of Republicans, coming back tomorrow into session. Trump right now, at least 10 Republican senators have said they will not vote for this in the United States Senate. Trump is calling these senators out by name just over the last day, calling them out, putting their names out on social media, saying we're going to go out, essentially threatening to primary them, defeat him in the election. But it's getting even worse.
How
for some
dare
of
you
these
speak
members
out against me?
who have said that they have gotten swatting incidents in their houses and violent incidents because of all this, for 2 more Republican seats, which is the ultimate goal here, so they can have 9 seats, a clean sweep of House Indiana seats, all to the GOP. It's ugly now.
It is getting ugly. You've had public officials in Indiana say that they're getting doxxed, as a result of this pressure. But even with this pressure, calls from J.D. Vance as well, Trump on social media, you are still seeing some senators oppose this, and it's going to be interesting to see how it ends up. All of this is because of the anxiety over the potential losses that the incumbency could have with the forthcoming midterms. So you're seeing an end route trying to redraw the maps here to gain a political edge.
Do you think Trump is going to win here in Indiana? He tends to win all these fights with Republicans.
We'll see. They seem like they are holding strong. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding, what happens this next week, but Indiana, I think, to me, is a larger message of Trump losing control of the fear or the mantle that say, like, people want to be with winners, and people in Indiana Senate House right now, and Republicans don't see Trump as the winner here.
Yeah, and we'll see the redistricting rules right now.
You know he wouldn't like hearing that. I bet Trump watches CNN because he's a fucking boomer too. So if he heard that, he's got to be fucking salty, man. Because Trump needs to be a winner. It's why he melted down for 4 years after he lost to Biden. And never stopped melting down over it. He's still melting down over that. Because Trump cannot stand losing. It is the worst thing ever. He's a winner. He must always be a winner.
Our projections right now is about 12 GOP seats versus 12 Democrat seats. The Democrats have tried to fight back on this, but there's some other states that have not made a decision how to proceed. So huge implications for the midterms.
Wow, that ended abruptly. Well, it looks like the main issue that Donald Trump ran on, the economy, is failing. What is he going to do? How is he possibly going to turn things around? It really is a win-win situation if you're a leftist. If the economy doesn't improve, then Americans become increasingly more radicalized against Republicans, conservatives, and maybe even capitalism. Maybe a little class consciousness comes out of all this. And if he does bring things around and improve his approval ratings, it'll be through actually buckling down, locking in, and fixing the economy. And I think most of us can agree we'd be fine with Trump getting a little bit of credit from Americans if it meant that the economy became more livable than it is right now, because people are struggling. And I'm fine with Trump getting some kind of political win if it means things genuinely get better than they are right now, because it is an economic nightmare at the moment. That said, I wish all of you luck with the current situation with the economy. Use this as an opportunity to radicalize people. The frustration is real. Now is your opening to bread pill people, as we used to say. Anyway, If you ended up enjoying this video, leave a like down below, comment to boost it in the algorithm, comment below, spread the class consciousness to boost the video. It really does help and tells me you watched all the way to the end. And of course, subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future, and hype the video as well if YouTube lets you. It really does help, and I appreciate it a ton. With all of that said, though, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.